Hey guys, Chad Wesley Smith here for Juggernaut Training Systems, bringing you a special episode of Squat School. Joined as always, the Montana Miracle Man, Max Aita, and our special guest today, the MegSquats.
MegSquats.
MegSquats, you may know her as from the YouTube. So today we're just going to take Meg through some squatting, tell you everything she's doing wrong, and how to fix it.
I want to squat more, better, be more strongest.
More betterer? All right, sounds like a plan. All right, so looking at that first set of squats for Meg, this triple with 110 kilos, and for the most part, I guess disappointingly for the sake of this video, it looks very good. You know, her upper back position and setup was really good and tight. That's an issue where a lot of people make a mistake. They think that, you know, their upper back is weak and they have a problem, you know, the squat pushing their torso forward, or they're caving at the upper back, and they think that they need special exercises to address that part of the squat. But she did a really good job. You know, close hand position, squeezing her shoulder blades towards the center of her body, squeezing her elbows in towards the middle of her body. So that part was very, very good. Max, what'd you see?
Well, I mean, I have to ask you, when you set up, where do you put your body weight on your foot?
My heels?
Wrong. Wrong.
What it looks like to me, when you go down, when you miss, you're probably going to come up and your hips come back real hard out of the hole. And what it looks like is, it's really subtle and it's hard to tell because you do move really well, but your weight's back on your heels when you set up. And there's this like chain reaction. To exaggerate it, you're here and you're going
Right.
this way to try and stand up. Rather than taking the weight and putting it on your heel, shift the weight forward so that your whole foot is on the ground and the combined weight of the bar and your body is right in front of your shin.
So we want to.
Combined weight is literally right above when you flex your big toe, that tendon that pops out. That's right there.
So we want to create equal pressure, big toe, little toe, and heel, and keep that even pressure throughout the whole foot.
And then when you set up, your hips, the hip position determines how far you're bent over, right? You put the bar down, you're in a great place here. Your hips can stay where they are, they're back, but your body weight's forward. So don't set your hips back and bring your whole body with it. Make sense?
Yes.
So from there, body weight's in the middle of your foot. From here, your hips are going to open and your knees bend at the same time. You just send straight down, keeping the pressure in the middle of your foot like that.
Okay.
Because at the bottom, you want to be ready to turn on your quads. Because the first thing that's going to happen for you is that you're going to be like, oh, I don't want to push with this, so I'm going to kick my hips back to get up.
Right.
And it works when the bar's low, but it'll work better to squat with a little bit more of your quads in there.
The thing that we're trying to create over anything else is a synergistic use of the legs and back. You see people who squat and their hips rise early, so their back is taking over in the lift, or like a high bar squatter who's squatting essentially with all legs if they're keeping a totally vertical torso. But for a low bar squatter, we want to maximize the strength of the back and the legs. And that's going to, a big part of that's going to be where the weight is distributed in the foot, because if the weight is not forward enough in the foot, we won't be able to use your quads effectively. All the weight will shift to the hamstrings and back.
Right. Because I see this like thing that a lot of lifters do, where they kind of do like a butt clench, I'm gonna call it, and I know I'm trying to do that, but I'm still in my heels as I'm doing that.
When you set up your body, and you put the bar on your back, you stand up, you lock down your torso, everything's pushing out, all this is braced. Assuming all those things are good, there shouldn't be an excessive squeezing of the glute, because the first thing that happens is what? Your glute has to turn off.
Right.
It has to turn off for you to squat, right? So you can't squeeze your butt and then keep it tight and squat down.
Yeah.
So setting your hips, pelvis, neutral, all these things neutral first. Your position in the hips is determined by the bar placement. You're here. This is done. There shouldn't be another like preparatory squeezing the butt and trying to go down.
Okay.
Your squat's really good in that. You don't have any of that. I wouldn't try, if it was me, I wouldn't try to like squeeze my butt and push it under me. I would just shift your body weight forward a little bit and let your quads and your knees do the work in the squat.
Okay.
Settle where the bar is, right? Everything that's all there. Settle where your hips go. Where that plane they're going to stay in this way. Keep them there. Bring your body weight to just in front of your shin. You're gonna feel your toes on the ground more because you're slightly more forward than you were. The first action, your hips are already back. They're already where you want them. Unlock the knee and descend down.
Okay.
You're gonna feel your quads. You wanna feel your quads because the bottom you wanna be ready to turn them on again. Okay? So find your balance, bring your weight to the front of your, there you go. Set your hips, set everything right. Toes down, knees forward first. Good, legs. Good. Go. You feel harder?
A little weird.
Yeah. Feels different.
I can feel that I'm more forward here.
Yeah.
Your cue's like,
Yeah.
I did it. Did I do it?
Yeah, you did. The reason it feels harder is because you've done 10,000 squats the other way, right? As you start getting your quads stronger and stronger, and they're going to respond really fast, right? Your quad responds super quick to training. As you come forward and get that balance, you'll have way more power in the middle and the bottom of the squat. You're already going to be strong at the top because your back is strong, right? You're already here. Yeah, for sure. Look behind you. 85% quad, 65% head, 97% hair.
Yeah, the small change in the foot pressure, like if you heard me saying, you know, big toe, you want to, a lot of people will be a little bit back on the foot. Real simple way to fix it is press your big toe into the floor.
Yeah.
That's going to tend to fix it right away. I think the thing to build on for the next set, so we've got the pressure down on the foot better, we've got the unhinging at the knee going well, is we want to try and create equal pressure with your back into the bar as your feet into the floor as you come out of the hole. Because what's going to become problematic to people, and especially as the weight gets heavier and heavier, and if your back is relatively stronger than your legs, you're going to hit the hole and this is going to happen to some degree, or this, the shifting back of the knees, is going to happen. But if I'm here and I press with my back and press with my legs, then I'm going to use the back and the legs together and maximize the strength from both of them, keeping the knee in the best position to use the quad out of the hole where it's best suited to work. Because down in that low position, the hamstring can't act on the bar. Now, it can't. The hamstring down there is not extending anything. It's the quad that has to do the work. And then higher up in the lift, the hamstring is going to work where it's best suited to work.
Take your time. Good. Find your balance. How'd it feel?
Not sure if I'm getting the hang of anticipating your cue.
Any new cue is tough sometimes to put into practice. Yeah. Unless, I mean, if it was some egregious mistake that you're making, like, and we change that, then yeah, that's probably going to click and be instant pounds. But, and it's not, you know, none of them look bad. Like, they all look good. Stuff's moving together.
But I haven't gotten much stronger lately, so I want to get more efficient. Because I think right now that's for sure holding me back. And training and in meets, obviously.
What's your best conventional deadlift?
355.
So a pretty substantial difference, I'd say, between.
Well, I haven't trained it in like since I've switched over.
Yeah. So let's say, you know, if you're deadlifting 355 conventional, squatting just under 300, you know, it's not like an outrageous ratio, but probably is indicative of your back being relatively stronger than your legs. And, you know, you weren't losing the position here, granted, you know, not maximal load, but directly bringing up your quad strength in the absence of developing the back. You know, leaving the back to back exercises, I think will be a useful thing. So we'll show you some belt squats, show everyone how those are done.
So it's not terrible?
Oh, it's all right.
Can be better?
Everyone can always be better, right?
All right, so what we're going to take Meg through now is the belt squat. This is one of the most commonly used exercises we have in our programs. This is going to do a great job of developing leg strength in the absence of back involvement. So if you have someone with a really high deadlift compared to a lower squat, or someone who just shows that they have relative back strength and a relatively strong back compared to weak legs in their squat, and we have a whole video about the analysis of this. This is going to be the exercise to do it. So Meg is going to be our demonstrator. You don't need a big fancy machine like a Pit Shark or something. If Pit Shark wants to give us a belt squat machine, that's all well and good, and that'll work great. But you don't need that. You can do it with a loading pin from Rogue, a belt. Iron Mind's got good ones. Spud Inc. has got good ones. Probably other people have good ones, and some boxes. So it doesn't need to be too fancy. So hop on up there, Meg.
You want the belt as low as you can get it on your hips. So you'll see people do it where the belt's like way up here and they're bent over. It's not right. The belt should be as low as you can get it on your hips, like
Hang off of
your hips, buttons. Yeah, like the hip hugger jeans or whatever. So I don't know. I'm trying to say hip with these kids. So really low here. You're gonna bend down and hook this on the belt. Put this leg over here first. And then you're going to stand up, and this should swing over.
Swinging over?
Yeah. Step forward a little bit so that this is closer to the end of the boxes. Yeah, bring your feet over. Every time you do this, you want to do it with something in front of you in case you fall backwards, because once you start going backwards, you can't go forward again, and you're done, and it's going to hurt. So hands hovering around this, ready to grab it if you have to. From here, abs tight. Keep your abs set. Your hips are neutral. This is low, your body weight is shifted forward. So straight legs, you see how you shift forward? Now the pressure is here, this part of your foot. When you bend, the first thing you do, and the only thing you do is bend your knee and let it travel forward. So squat down, let your knees come forward, keep going until you're about to drop backward, yeah, then come back up and push just from the quad. One thing to do when you're coaching someone or when you're doing it is squat down, push your knee forward into my hand, and then keep your knee against my hand as you come out of the hole. Up. Again, do like 5 more. Keep it against my hand. Up. Again. Go. You feel like your quads? You feel your quads doing the work on the bottom? Yeah. Same thing. Push against my hand on the way up. Push. Yeah. Generally, we do like 10 to 20 reps, 4 to 5 sets, those kind of things. High volume. Pretty good. Keeping the pressure forward the whole time.
My quads.
So stand up again. Make sure this is set a little bit lower. Yeah, and you're good.
Yeah.
You just swing that over. This is still too low, but swing it over and then you're good. Keeps you safe.
Woo!
Particularly great tool in hypertrophy phases. When we're talking about people doing 10 sets of 10, 5 sets of 20. And it's so great because if your back is relatively stronger than your legs, this eliminates the back from the exercise. It allows the legs to begin to catch up in strength, so you can just have a more balanced squat where you're fully using leg strength and back strength together.
Dr. Quinn here with Noel and MegSquats. So we're going to talk about some things ducktailing off of what Max and Chad had suggested for these two in regards to trunk stability, core positioning in relation to the rib cage and the pelvis, regardless of if we are high bar or low bar squatting. The supine position, if we're just talking about teaching an athlete how to create stability through the core and be able to transfer force with the legs, the supine position is a nice teaching tool. Now with these two, they already move very, very well. There's not really any mobility restrictions or anything that I would prescribe in that regard. And also, if I'm just cueing them to brace and position their hips and rib cage while they're squatting, that's probably going to be enough for them. They're high-level squatters, they're going to get that cue. For a newer lifter or maybe a lifter that's coming off of injury and you're really trying to dial in that position, you can start them in supine because it's nice and easy for them to learn and it's easy for you to teach. So this 90-90 position, we'll start, it's kind of like a supine squat. And so you're in this triple flexion with the hips, knees, and ankles, and we can even scoot a little closer to the wall to mimic a parallel or slightly below parallel squat. And we'll just position the feet. For these two, I'll just cue them wherever they typically squat from. And then they can start with their hands on their lower ribs, and that's kind of what we're monitoring here. So the cues are to breathe in through your nose and kind of just push the air down. So we're thinking about if you were somehow decapitated and you're filling water down your neck, the air, or the water in this case, is going to fill from bottom to top. So while you're taking a breath in through your nose, you're thinking about pushing the air down and then filling the bottom of your lungs all the way to the top. So you get this kind of 360-degree circumferential expansion. So in through your nose, exhale with some force through your mouth, like you're blowing up a balloon. Exhale hard. So the lower ribs, keep going, keep going, keep going. And so we're exaggerating this position. Hold that. You're not going to suffocate, I promise. But that exhalation, that forceful burst, will set this position. It'll kind of stack the rib cage on top of the pelvis. Now, breathe in through your nose and push the air into that tension. And you should kind of see, if you're cueing this and coaching this, you should kind of see their entire torso blow up. It's kind of like this 360-degree expansion. And then exhale with some force through your mouth. So think of the exhalation as setting position, and then the inhalation, breathe in through your nose, reinforces that position. Relax for a second, if they were wearing a belt, it would be the same thing. So you can imagine, strapping a belt on your athlete and putting your fingers between the belt and their body, and you should feel the belt expand all the way around. And I think a lot of times a lifter will lose tension in the back of the belt as they're coming out of the squat. You should be able to push in all directions. So another cue here is to breathe in through your nose, exhale all the way, so we set that position, or exhale with some force, I should say. Okay, good, ribs are stacked over the pelvis. Now, when you breathe in through your nose, your back position really shouldn't change. You shouldn't have to lose that connection with your rib cage and your pelvis in order to get air in. You should just be able to push the air into that tension, and that's exactly what Max and Chad were cueing earlier. Now, this position is very easy to get these cues. It's very natural. It doesn't always translate all of a sudden to them squatting more weight or feeling more stable. So we kind of have to build that up. So I'll have you guys both stand up now that you've kind of understood that concept. And then we'll give you a little load to practice. And so Meg was doing low bar, Noelle was doing high bar in the videos, but as Chad made a good point, the mechanics from the waist down, hips, knees, and ankles, they don't really change. What's going to change with bar orientation on the back is simply your torso position, but you're still looking for the hips, knees, and ankles to hinge naturally or simultaneously. This front-loaded position will teach you how to create that tension. So what I want you guys to do is hold the bell maybe 10, 12 inches away from you, and then utilize that forceful exhalation that we did on your back as you're standing tall. Exhale forcefully, kind of a short burst to pull those ribs down, and it kind of sets your hips underneath you. And then I want you to breathe in to that tension, and then you can set your hips. So that first move is hips and knees break simultaneously, and that's your move right there. From there, the squat is straight down, no matter where the barbell is. So you exhale with some force, you're staying tall, breathe into that tension, and I want you to slowly start to squat down, both of you, and we'll just kind of cue and correct. Good, just stand back up. Meg, turn to the side. Do that again. I want you to mimic your low bar position. So you can let your torso come forward. That doesn't translate to this. It doesn't mean that necessarily, where I'm breaking that position, but this can happen, and then it's straight down, but you're utilizing that 360 degrees of pressure. Yeah, hold that's the move. Hold that position, breathe in through your nose, exhale with some force, so create that tension down there, and then breathe into that tension, and then you can stand up. So the tempoed goblet squat, do that again. As I'm talking here, the tempoed goblet squat and that pause at the bottom will really reinforce what we're talking about. Exhale with some force, create that tension, good, so you can kind of see everything set, and then push air into that position, and then drive up. Good. Breathe into that tension, and then drive up. Nice, then relax. And same thing. For the high bar, it's a similar conversation. The difference is you'll have a more upright torso. Right? But the mechanics from the waist down don't necessarily change. So for you, I want you to think you're still going to set your hips back to a degree, but your knees and your hips they unhinge about the same time. And so it's kind of this move here, but then it's straight down. That is different than just breaking through the trunk and changing the orientation of your pelvis. It's different than tilting your pelvis. So try with that counterbalance, you've got some wiggle room to explore here. So start with a forceful exhalation, just a quick burst to kind of set your abs. Good. And then bring your shoulders slightly in front. Right there is going to be the orientation of a high bar squat, right? Where kind of our hips are balanced underneath that bar. Now I want you to just unhinge hips, knees, and ankles and sit straight down. Good. Pause there. So I don't know if you guys can see that, but there's a little break. Now it's not a big deal, but if we're being nitpicky here, hold this position and pull your pelvis back underneath you a little bit. Yes, right there. Breathe in. Exhale really hard, get your abs to turn on, good. And then go a little lower. Nice. Breathe into that tension. Exhale hard. Go a little bit lower. Very good. And then come on back up. But both of these girls have great mobility. They move very, very well. And so if there's any kind of instability, it's just a habit. It's just a pattern. Let's try that again. Do you feel that point where things start to kind of break?
Yeah, I do. And then the extension, like I've always had. That's always been like an issue for me.
Yeah. Well, and you guys, you can hyperextend and still reach depth, whereas some people, if they hyperextend, it changes the mechanics enough to kind of limit their positioning. And so again, we're nitpicking, but I think if you want to create the most tension and pressure, that's going to drive the most weight, it's nice to have that pelvis and ribcage relationship. So let's do that again. Exhale hard. Yeah, good. There it is. Pause. Breathe into that tension. Exhale hard. Good. Bring the hips underneath you a little bit. And then down. Nice. And again. And there's no difference between high bar and low bar as far as mechanics, right? And Meg, you can still keep your hips under the bar even if your torso is more forward because the bar is lower. So your hips are still going to be underneath the bar. It's going to make you better able to drive out. Because really that's the most important part of this whole piece is what you do after you hit the bottom, what your body does. If you can keep your hips stacked underneath the bar, now we're using our legs. It's just like the bell squats. And so this is a really nice example. 2 very, very simple drills. If you have somebody that struggles with that, you're throwing every verbal cue, every tactile cue while they're standing and they just don't get it, throw them in that supine position. You can throw them in quadruped and have them rock back and forth like a quadruped squat. But the mechanics of the bracing sequence is the same. And then something like a counterbalance is very, very useful to get them to feel that position. Use pauses, use tempo work. Once they're back on the bar, it should be a little bit more natural, and then you don't have to kind of beat your head against the wall cueing them to death. Make sense? Yeah, cool. Squat school.
Class, summer is starting.
Boom, all right.
Get expert program design, video analysis, and guidance for powerlifting and weightlifting, whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced athlete through Team Juggernaut's online coaching. Click Learn More to sign up.